Hello and welcome to your news at noon right here on Kaieteur Radio, kindly sponsored by Amalanda Milk. I am Kevin Smith. These are the top stories we are tracking. 3 days before elections, Lands and Survey boss Trevor Benn bought $25 million Prado for $2.5 million from his own workplace. Stabroek Block field development costs estimated at $60 billion US. OGGN asked, how involved is the government of Guyana in the capital cost associated with oil projects? And breach of duty-free concessions. CJIA's Chinese contractor illegally used equipment for movie town construction. And a $609 million bailout for civil aviation due to COVID-19. Meanwhile, Guyana can make hundreds of millions from studying oil block data. Stay tuned to stay informed.
You don't have to be a fountain of knowledge to help children with their schoolwork while they're at home. But you do have to be caring, understanding, loving, and patient. It's an unsettling time for everyone, but children still need a safe and secure environment. So don't overwhelm them with endless news items or problems. Keep them gainfully occupied and amused, exercised and rested. Protect our children. A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
And now for the news in detail. Leading up to the March 2nd elections, there was a flurry of transactions involving state properties. In addition to questionable land deals at Ogle, there is one transaction now that has raised deep concerns about what else could have happened. 3 days before the March 2nd general and regional elections, the board of directors of the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission sold Commissioner Trevor Benn a 2016 Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, worth around $25 million at the time of purchase in 2016, for $2.5 million. The vehicle, registered on September 29, 2016, listed Benn as the buyer. According to an internal memorandum dated March 3, 2020, one day after elections, the board of directors of the commission took a decision 3 days before, on Friday, February 28, 2020. And moving on, the Irfan Ali administration has inherited an industry of billions in capital costs where oil is concerned. Recent estimates place the costs of ExxonMobil's current discoveries in the Stabroek Block roughly at $60 billion US. Rystad Energy recently said that in addition to the Liza Phases 1 and 2 projects estimated at $9.5 billion US, ExxonMobil could sanction a further $50 billion US in projects, including 10 more oil vessels in the next 10 years. The oil major will endeavor to recover all of it from the sale of Guyana's crude. Is Guyana ready for the burden of so many costs in such short period? Does it have the capacity to scrutinize the billions in capital costs already foisted by ExxonMobil and its Stabroek Block partners? How involved is the government in checking those costs? In 2011, China Harbor Engineering Company was awarded a $150 million US contract to build Guyana a bigger, modernized airport. Almost a decade later, Guyana is still waiting, and there are tough questions being asked how. Like, what exactly went wrong? On Monday, President Irfan Ali made it clear that Guyana would not be accepting the project. The contractor is owed millions. In fact, he said Guyana signed a specific agreement for a fixed price, and it was clear that Guyana should get. Under its contract, it was allowed to bring in materials and equipment duty-free to the tune of billions of dollars. In other words, the Chinese state-controlled company did not have to pay taxes. There was a catch. The contractor could not use the equipment for anything else except the airport project. However, from early reports published in Kaieteur News back in 2016 and never refuted by the contractor, the company used the equipment illegally on the movie town project. Located at Turkine, the mall project was introduced around the same time as the airport project. In other news, with the adverse effects of the COVID-19 on local economy, the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority has received a $609 million bailout in the 2020 national budget. This allocation is aimed at ensuring that the regulatory agency keeps its international certification in order. This is according to Public Works Minister Juan Edgell. Moreover, the Public Works Minister underscored that in order to keep Guyana's International Civil Aviation Organization certification in order at all times, 4 months cover must be in services. That should be in reserves. In other news, you've heard that Guyana can make a killing from producing oil. That's true. However, even before oil is produced in a block, Guyana can make hundreds of millions, sometimes even billions of dollars, from mining data on those blocks and knowing how to use that data to its advantage. Petroleum consultant Dr. Jan Mangal explained how Guyana can give itself an advantage if it owns and studies data on its blocks. Seismic data, Dr. Mangal said, is what oil companies need to decide whether they will invest in a particular area in a block. By acquiring ownership of that data, Guyana can take it and better understand what is actually out there in its own waters. He went on to say that Guyana needs to be in control of the data, but Exxon is still in a position of control because it has the data. You are tuned into Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM, and this is your news at noon. Coming up after the break, $134 million to complete badly mismanaged $31 million Sheriff Mandela Road expansion project. President Ali and others pay final respects to murdered Burmese teen Harish Singh, and Linden nurses protest for COVID-19 risk allowance and other issues. The health minister says new data shows COVID-19 aerosol could spread disease. Nations should also wear face masks in enclosed spaces. The ERC says families shocked at murder of Burmese teens linked to race hate. Do stay tuned.
Enjoy Free Night Talk with Digicel, the curfew edition. Get unlimited free talk to any Digicel number between 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. All you have to do is top up $1,000 or more every day before 6 p.m. to enjoy unlimited free talk. That's a whole lot of gaff. No more boring nights. You can now call your mommy, daddy, your bestie, your boo, even granny to tell them all that Digicel unlimited free night talk is back. Terms and conditions apply. Digicel, there with you.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. The previous APNU-AFC administration had expended millions on the Sheriff Mandela Road expansion project. But despite this, the project is far from complete. Instead, the PPPC administration will have to expend a further $134 million to complete works there. Construction has restarted after being halted back in April, and Guyanese can now look forward to the road being paved with asphalt before the end of the year. Public Works Minister Juan Edgell branded the project badly mismanaged as the issue came to the fore yesterday during the considerations for the 2020 national budget estimates. Minister Edgell said that the project should have already reached finality as the contract was awarded since December of 2017. Sino Hydro Corporation Limited is the Chinese contracting firm awarded the contract. Let's tell you now that just 4 days after two teenage boys, Joel and Isaiah Henry, were found murdered in the Cotton Tree Back Dam, Harish Singh, another teenager who resided at No. 3 Village, West Coast Berbice, was also found murdered. Yesterday, Singh was laid to rest at the No. 3 Back Dam in proximity to the graves of other departed relatives. It was a day filled with sad emotions. Among those expressing words of condolences to relatives of the dead teen were President Irfan Ali, Regional Chairman David Armagon, Regional Party Supervisor for the PPP Zamal Hussain, and Regional Executive Officer Narendra Prasad. At the Prasad's funeral home in New Amsterdam, where the teenager's casket was open for viewing, President Ali and his entourage embraced the grieving relatives and shared comforting words for a few minutes. The president described yesterday as another of those sad days in the country. And moving on, nurses at the Linden Hospital complex in Region 10 staged a protest yesterday, calling for risk allowance to be included in their pay packages in wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The nurses who took to the streets with placards was called at the regional health authorities to look into their security concerns, to ensure their salaries are paid on time and that adequate personal protective equipment is available for them to do their jobs. Regional Health Officer Dr. Gregory Harris said that the concerns expressed by the nurses are being addressed at the level of management. Dr. Harris explained, however, while issues of salaries and security can be sorted at a regional level, the nurses call for risk allowances to be addressed by the Ministry of Health. And moving on, Chairman of the Ethnic Relations Commission, Reverend John Smith, along with commissioners and other staffers on Thursday, September 17th, visited the grieving families of the Henry cousins, Isaiah and Joel, and Henry Singh. The ERC team offered words of comfort to the parents and guardians of the slain youths. According to a release from the ERC, the team visited the families who are still overwhelmed by complete sadness as parents and relatives repeated their call for justice to be served. The ERC team noted that the murdered teens all lived a short distance away from each other in a closely knit community. The commission said that the Henry families, who are of mixed ancestry with relatives from both major ethnic groups, were vocal and expressed shock that the murders were being promoted as crimes of race hate. You are tuned into Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. Coming up after the break is your COVID-19 update. And now for a COVID-19 update. The number of worldwide coronavirus cases, according to Worldometer, has reached 32,187,625, with deaths at 983,454. Recovery cases worldwide has reached 23,747,479. The Ministry of Health yesterday announced 2 more COVID-19 fatalities, taking the death toll to 7 to 1 in Guyana. The deaths are of a 70-year-old female from Region 4 who died while receiving care at a medical facility, while the other is a 66-year-old woman from Region 1. According to the ministry's daily dashboard update, there are also 98 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 2,535. Currently, there are 14 persons in the COVID-19 ICU. There are 160 persons in institutional isolation, 828 in approved home isolation, and 67 persons in institutional quarantine. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony is reinforcing the need for citizens to wear face masks in an enclosed environment to safeguard themselves against the spread of the deadly coronavirus. The health minister said that wearing face masks in public has become increasingly important, given that the information of the novel coronavirus is still becoming available. Dr. Anthony pointed out to findings that show that the virus can survive in the air, particularly in enclosed space, for up to 1 hour. The warning comes even as the World Health Organization changed its language to recognize that short-range aerosol transmission, particularly in specific indoor locations, such as crowded and inadequately ventilated spaces, over a prolonged period of time with infected persons cannot be ruled out. PAHO urges countries to plan early for COVID-19 vaccinations to reduce deaths. Countries should not wait on a COVID-19 vaccine to be developed before they start planning and preparing for its arrival. This is according to Director of Pan American Health Organization, Carissa Etienne. She went on to say that in the meantime, they must also continue other recommended public health measures to contain the virus. Dr. Etienne said frontline health workers, first responders, and those caring for the elderly should be vaccinated first, following by vulnerable groups such as adults with pre-existing conditions, especially those over 65 years of age. She urged countries around the world to prepare for a coronavirus vaccine, but also to remain realistic, knowing that these preparations do not replace everything else that has to be done today. And coming from CNN, Johnson & Johnson announced its one-dose vaccine has entered phase 3 of its trial, and a large proportion of the U.S. will not be vaccinated for COVID-19 this year, said Dr. Anthony Fauci, USA's leading infectious disease expert. The CDC said thousands of commercial flight passengers may have been exposed to coronavirus since the start of 2020, and the UK recorded its highest daily increase in cases since May, one day after the government announced new restrictions to stem the spread of the virus. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon, sponsored by Amalanda Milk.
And that's the news of the moment. Remember to get the full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the MyTuner app as well as the Radio Garden app. You can also keep up to date by liking our